I mean, the song ended at the perfect moment there, didn't it? So we will take that opportunity to click some buttons, I think. Hey, there we go. It's always funny when that music plays, if nothing else, just because it's always hard to know when it's going to kick out. Like, you sometimes hope it will kind of like match up with everything. It doesn't always, but it did tonight, so we will kind of take that. I can't get Facebook to work, which is a bit of a weird one, because normally I would kind of post links, and I can't get the links to post, which is really strange. So we're just going to quickly try and do that. Your warm-up question there, if Facebook isn't working, how else are we getting terrible memes from our relatives this evening? Is the question. Let's just click some buttons and see if we can't get this rocking and rolling. No, that doesn't appear to want to work properly. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Either way, let's just make sure everything actually has worked and posted in the places I could get it to post. We appear to be coming through. Obviously petrified now because... There we go. We have noise, we have sound, we have fury. Well, at least fury. I'm more concerned how certain people on my timeline will be showing what they had for dinner tonight. Throwing it at your window, Jonathan. That's how they do it. Hello, good. We have life out there. Because I can see people slowly trickling in. Given that Facebook appears to have pooed the bed and we can't seem to get anything to work, normally, just send memes on other social media. Yeah, I can't seem to get Facebook to work properly. Nothing's posting. In which case, I normally ask it and sort of mention it. But if you could, if you're on Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever, share the stream out tonight, please. I normally don't ask with such veracity, but like I said, I can't get Facebook to work for whatever reason. It's not working on anything at all. We'll quickly try one more time. And let's go. And see if we can get it to work. Because normally something will happen. Maybe it's just in my neck of the woods. Yeah, how very strange. Oh dear. So it will work, but not as well as I wanted it to. It's not posting sort of the pictures with it. At least on the plus side, the tech not working isn't the tech that is working is the stream tech. I will take that. We should probably get rocking and rolling. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is Wednesday night, is 8 PM, and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird, wonderful and wild world that is the National Ice Hockey League structure. Here in Great Britain, we focus on the National Division. That is our bread and butter. That is our home port. But we, of course, like to have a look across the entirety of the NIHL. That means the National Division as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north. And in the south, and of course, we've been branching out all over the show. WNIHL scores, Elite League commentary. The BOTW What's Current stream is slowly becoming your place to kind of go and natter about anything, if nothing else, because Andrew sticks all the scores in the chat. We'll get to those in a second. But one thing we should do, of course, is do a little bit of housekeeping, which means bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Normally, your number one source for. I say the NIHL. The last 4 weeks, of course, have all been Elite League content because Muggins here has been running his in the box thinking. He says, getting the words out of his mouth. My in the box thinking series is part of Banners on the Road. So Banners on the Road is the series where, since the Bison wandered off into the mist, any game that I go to gets the in-depth treatment. So no matter what level, whether it's Elite League, whether it's NIHL 2, Banners. Deary me, I'm having an absolute nightmare this evening. I just can't seem to get the words out. Battles on the Road means that you get that in-depth look to whatever game I've been to. But while I've been doing this little run of commentary for the Guildford Flames, of which there's still a couple of games left, that you get in-the-box thinking, which is some thoughts and some machinations and a bit of insight of how I've seen the game as I've been commentating on, as well as what it's like to kind of commentate on Elite League hockey, the little eccentricities of commentating in a place like Guildford, which is a unique place to kind of call ice hockey. But But this coming weekend with the Flames, on the road this weekend, the Flames are playing right now. Andrew's put the scores and bits and pieces in the chat, but it means that I get to come back to the NIHL, and I should have 2 weekends of it. I was meant to be commentating Guildford on the 22nd. And originally had to pull out of that because of some family stuff, but now I'm not going to that, so it looks like I'm going to get back-to-back games in the NIHL. This weekend, there is only one place you would find me, because when I had a look at the games that were on offer this weekend, my options, and it's not to denigrate our friends who are still streaming, thank you Swindon Wildcats, you've overrun your time slot, but the option was Swindon versus Hull, which is a game that we've already had this season in Banners on the Road, a game I've already watched live with my own 2 eyes, or the Solent Devils and the Streatham Redhawks in Gosport. Now, I've been to Gosport a few times already this year, but a game that I've already seen versus a game that I've seen in the past but haven't seen this year. A new look Streatham side, new look Solent side with a bunch of different guys. Saturday, Gosport, I will be there, and that means the fun and eccentricities of a Banners on the Road that is back in the NIHL. But of course, Banners on the Wall. .wordpress.com, you have nearly 14 years worth of content, so Basingstoke Bison history, game reports, all kinds of fantastic things. You've got the Andrew Day WNIHL primer for NIHL fans. Get to know women's hockey where you are, thanks to Andrew's fantastic talents there. We're edging ever closer to the 1,000th piece published on the website. Still wondering what to do about that. If you've got any ideas, please do let me know. But you've also got our hockey story series, long form, in-depth pieces of content. Some of it's written, some of it's in video form, but we go in depth into little bits and pieces about ice hockey from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond. Of course, you've got we've done some okay pieces this year. I think when you think of our piece on retirement, When the Music Stops, where we talked to Stevie Whitfield and Ross Murray, 2 guys who've retired in the not too distant past. You've also got our exclusive chat with NIHL Dops with Ken Riddell and Alan Batchelor. You think of all the bits and pieces and all the places that moan about DOPS and what they do. Well, only one site has talked to DOPS, and that's here at BOTW, so you can check out all those things on the website. And then, of course, there's here, YouTube, all of our social media links. We'll go through it all at the end, but if you look down there in the description, Twitter, Facebook, when it works, Blue Sky, I actually remember to put the Blue Sky in there this weekend, as well as the link to our virtual busking hat at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. And, of course, we're on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Tons of stuff goes on the channel. Interviews with the movers and shakers of British hockey. Some of our hockey stories is there. Game reports and bits and pieces like that. I did my the game in the box thinking from the game between Guildford and Coventry is there on the YouTube channel too. And of course, because you're watching live on YouTube, that means you get the chat. I know some of you guys like to catch up afterwards. That's absolutely fine. However you want to join us, entirely up to you. But if you're here with us live on a Wednesday night, you've got the chat over there. Comments, questions, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chuck in as we weave our merry way through British ice hockey this Wednesday evening. Please feel free. But of course, if you want to join in with the chat, please remember the golden rule. DBAD, don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings. The other thing you can get there in the description is the link to Lee's 3D printing site, 3D Lee, where you can get fantastic, fun 3D printed things like my sign and my puck and stand that Lee did for me. So do go and check those out. Fantastic stuff. So, it is Wednesday evening. Andrew, you have put some the Elite League scores in the chat for us. End of the first at the SSE, Belfast 5-1 to the good against the Dundee Stars. Elijah Barriga, Gabe Bast, Mark Cooper, Pierre-Olivier Morin and JJ Picanich with the goals for the Giants. Jake Elmer on the board for the Stars. The Steelers leading by 3-0 at home against the Guildford Flames. Jona Hutala and 2 from Brandon Whistle. That's still in, well, it's got to be close to the end of the first by now, given that was a 7:30 face-off. And in the Challenge Cup, big game in the Challenge Cup tonight between the Coventry Blaze and the Cardiff Devils. The lone goal at the moment there, scored by Brandon Alderson. It is 1-0 Coventry as it stands. Yeah, keep answering the warm-up question during the night, of course, which is, with Facebook down, how are we getting terrible memes from our relatives? Chris, I can see there too for flinching, of course. If you're not familiar with Chris's work, he does a lot of stuff for Streatham. Tried to share to the NHL 1 group, but hit the same issues as you. Also, hello. Graham Hamilton there from the Blackburn Hawks. And there, good evening. Ben, hi. Congratulations to Ben on his nomination in the Sports Podcast Awards bits and pieces. Thank you for sharing that out, good sir. Always appreciated. we will. That is an awesome bit of news which I'd forgotten was this weekend, which I will mention now. Just as I quickly respond to his message. Because what you should get, and I know he's talked about it a little bit, but the Bees are away in Dumfries this weekend, and of course we'll go through all the fixtures and bits and pieces, but what you get the absolute superb 1-2 punch that is Andy Glenn and Joe Scutts on commentary up in Dumfries this weekend. I was fortunate enough to do commentary when I went up to Dumfries last year. I got to go on with Owen Blackstock because Andy was in, I believe he was visiting his daughters at university in Dundee. But fantastic bit of news. Talk about high quality commentary. You're going to get that in spades from a fantastic duo that is Andy Glenn, who's commentated on international tournaments, and Scuttsy, who copped a bit of flack last weekend from the Bees Knights game, and all of it, from what I can see, largely unjustified because Joe. Commentating in Slough is such a unique thing, and I don't think people quite realise where the I don't think people quite realise like the positioning of it. I'm just looking for something. If I nab my sort of trading card, if you think of the building in Slough like this, the commentary position, where would you put a commentary position if you were building it? You were building it if you were specifically doing something, you put it there. The commentary position in Slough is in that corner. In the back, if you walk through the main doors of the rink at Slough, the commentary position is in the back right of the rink. So Joe and it was Joe and Chris Beale on Sunday. Saturday, and the ability to see everything that's happening at the opposite end of the rink is quite hard. And irrespective of that, Joe's still one of the best in the country, irrespective of the league. Kept all of the stats for the NHL. When there was nothing and Fixtures Live was dead as a doornail, and we had the Sportle mess which I reported upon, and now into what the National Division has. So the idea that some of the flack that Ben copped off the back of his commentary over the top of what was, let's face it, a load of nonsense really, because that sort of fighting just doesn't achieve much. So for him to cop a load of flack there is really stupid. And that's the only thing I can really say, and I hope some people who said a few bits and pieces should really just take a moment, reflect, and if you said anything directly to Joe, apologise for it. That'd be really good. I think you need to be able to own your mistakes, and if you said something in the heat of the moment, apologise for it. Should happen more. Whatever. Dumfries this weekend. If you want a stream to pick. And you're not at a game yourself, you want a stream to pick, Solway versus the Bees is going to be pretty decent, let's face it. If you've got two top class guys commentating in Andy Glenn and Joe Scutts. I can feel I've got a cough coming on, that's going really well. Either way though, yeah, it appears, as it says, everyone to the naughty step. We'll run through some of the bands and bits and pieces and what happened, and some of the people who look like they're heading towards the naughty step proper in a bit, because it has been a very, very busy weekend in the National Division, which we should probably take a minute to look at. So we will hit some buttons and pull up all of the fantastic graphics. And if you aren't a regular viewer of the show and you want to, and you're wondering, how does he get all of these fancy bits and how does he get all these fancy graphics? Well, for folk who don't remember, Joe from Billingham, who's a viewer of the stream, he made the BOTW logo. He makes all of these bits around the edges. The actual graphics with all the match bits and pieces, I just screenshot off of the NIHL National Division website. And then the fixture graphics you'll get at the end are done by the fantastic Max Van Mullen, one of the best up and coming net mining prospects in the division. Of course, a young man who's heavily involved with the Romford system, playing for the Buccaneers as he had made a huge impression during pre-season with Romford. And we go back to last Wednesday night, because of course we were all here on stream as Romford and MK battled it out in the first leg of their cup semi-final, which Romford won, and you can see there that late goal, 59-51 for Andrew Schufelt to complete a hat-trick on the night. Obviously that came after what was quite a lengthy injury break to one of the MK players, but the stream cut and all those kind of bits and pieces. But eventually it came back. Romford headed to the power play off the back of a Jordan Spatterford penalty, and Romford lead by a goal, and that is going to be huge, of course, heading into tomorrow night, because it's a bit of a psychological advantage for the Raiders heading into the extra one. So yes, a hat-trick for Andrew Schufelt. The other goals for the Raiders coming from Sean Miller and Brandon Ailiff. For the Lightning, Susters, Rutkis, Wallace and Grinnell Park. Some very, very good goals scored here. A little element of controversy on a couple of them in terms of whether pucks had crossed lines or not, but ultimately goals have ended up counting, and Romford, they have their noses in front heading into the second leg. A big thank you again, of course, to the Romford Raiders for spotting me the stream last week. Hopefully, even though it's a Thursday evening, hopefully there's a fair few from Essex who are able to make their way up to MK. That then takes us into this upcoming Saturday, and I think the Raiders were probably a little bit tired and a bit emotionally exhausted. They made a very long trip up to Hull and got absolutely shellacked. Hull, of course, have had a relatively bad run recently, and you felt that this was going to happen to somebody eventually, and it happens against a Romford side that are probably at that moment relatively mentally spent and have played a lot of games in a very short space of time. Harvey Briggs scored to make it 2-1, and from there Hull said, nah, we're done with this nonsense. As you can see, the Raiders just ran out of huff and ran out of puff. Emil Svek, Johnny Corneal, Owen Sobchuk, Owen Bruton, Lee Bonner, all getting on the score sheet. And then Callum McGill. That doesn't happen very often. Callum McGill's score. That's how you know. Callum McGill from Josh Hodgkinson from Alex Kent. That shows how knackered the Raiders were when it comes to that one. But either way, Hull back in the winning column again. And then Swindon getting a big shutout win. It doesn't matter who you get it against, but of course the Battle of the Mars, Jordan versus Rennie, and Rennie takes the spoils in this one as the Wildcats defence shuts down Dunbar, shuts down Gardner, and shuts down that. There were a few guys missing for Solway. Guys like Mason Alderson were out, but it doesn't matter. You only beat what's in front of you. Aaron Nell, Glenn Billing and Jake Bricknell. So not only did the Wildcats win a close one, not only did they shut out their opponents, but also some of their top end guys firing as well, and a goal on the power play for Billing as the Wildcats take the points on Saturday. Then there was this nonsense. I'd say go watch the highlights. I mean, do. They're a bit shorter than they usually are, because most of the talking points on this one of course, naturally, editing it out. If you bear with me, what's that? That's a message from. Let's just quickly pull up the National Division website, because what we need if we're going to talk about the Knights and the Bees is we need the bits and pieces regarding the game review panel from Saturday, because of course, as we can see here, so the lone goal for the Bees coming on the power play in the second period from Will Stead. The problem at that point was they were already 6-0 down, because the Knights smashed through the Bees and then held them at bay. 2 goals from Ollie Endicott, and then 2 goals from Mac Howlett, a goal from Jordan Boyce, and a goal from Finn Braden into the bargain. But yes, a lot of penalties from this one if we just pull everything up. So, Bailey Perry got a game misconduct for fighting. That's so no ban for him, just penalty points. Marcel Balach given a game misconduct for fighting, so he's got 1 penalty point on that one. So sorry, just a 5-minute penalty assessed there. Don Gabay gets a game misconduct for third man in, 4 penalty points to his record, but he could carry on. Jordan Griffin getting a game misconduct for fighting, he gets 5 penalty points. Liam Morris's penalty for slashing and a penalty for Kieran Brown for fighting at 37-16 are being sent to the full whack Department of Player Safety panel. It's Wednesday tonight, so we should hope. So word should hit the clubs tomorrow regarding anything there. Now, of course, it's not a good look from Liam Morris to slash somebody across the wrist. So less good for however many Leeds players it was. It looks like it's 3 punching a guy on the ground, especially Brown, who appears to have injured himself in the process, because it doesn't look like the slash that injures him. It looks like the punch if you watch the video. Either way, a pretty dominant win for the Knights in that one on we go. And then MK decided they were just going to go nuts as well. A tough one here for Tyler Delabatouche put in, facing over 50 shots in this one. But as the Pitbulls not unreasonably tried to protect Tommy Napier from being lit up like a Christmas tree. But the point still stands. Without wanting to sound, to make too much of a joke here about pit bulls, throw the kid a bone and don't let him get lit up. If you look at Tyler Delabatouche's games, he has not played against a single lower end opponent this season. It's been Leeds and MK a lot of the time. Jordan Spadafor actually was given one penalty point off the back of this one. He got a 5-minute penalty for boarding in here. But yes, as you can see, a lot of names in that one. Two goals. 2 goals for Susters, goals for Dylan Lawrence, Thomas Rutkiss, 2 for Harry Gulliver, Ross Venus getting in on the act, as well as Jordan Cowney for the 9 goals there. Goals for the Pitbulls coming from Barry McKenzie, Mason Lipsey and Reece Smetham. And then the last game from Saturday, a close-fought game over in Cambridgeshire, but one that the Peterborough Phantoms managed to pick up the win. The game-winning goal coming in coming in the third period, eventually from Luke Ferrara. Although Tigers 4-1 down, nearly clawed themselves back into it, pardon the pun, as they scored twice in the space of 35 seconds. Jarvis Hunt, Cam Huff, Yanni Larkinen scoring the other goals alongside Luke Ferrara. Vlad Luca, along with Jason Silverthorne, playing in place of the other David Thompson, who's obviously injured at the moment, and Rhodes Mitchell King. Into Sunday then, and MK get themselves a 4-point weekend to make up from the disappointment of losing on Wednesday night. They beat the Sheffield Steel Dogs by 6 goals to 2 up at I Sheffield. Still scratching my head a bit about the Steel Dogs in terms of some of their consistency, but a good night again for MK. Elmira Helfors and Walker Summer with the goals for the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Walker Summer, who will probably be in the discussion for Player of the Year for the entire division. He appears to be absolutely ridiculous in terms of his scoring. 2 goals for Dylan Lawrence. Dylan Lawrence, Thomas Rutkiss, Ross Venus, Tim Wallace, and, as you will note there, a returning goal for Sean Norris, back with the MK Lightning after requesting his release from Guildford. When I've watched Norris for Guildford, it hadn't looked like it had clicked for him. He wasn't necessarily, I feel, being used to his strengths at the best of times, but you kind of have, sometimes at that level you have to kind of make do with what you do, but also he'd been hurt a fair bit, had Norris, and this has given him the opportunity to step back down, get back to kind of what he does best, and because people say, oh, it's the end of his GB career, well, for the moment probably yes, because Pete Russell doesn't pick players out of the NIHL, but to be able to step down and show people what Sean Norris is capable of again, sometimes you have to go, sometimes one step back can result in 2 steps forward. That was on Sunday. And then let's just double check where we got to there, make sure everything's lining up. Yep. Sunday, Bristol, and the Sharks take the win in Bristol in overtime. 4-3 to the Sharks, and the Sharks end up giving up a late equaliser. Again, Reece Smetham scoring inside the final 5 minutes. You wonder whether the Sharks were about to do it to themselves again, but no. John Dunbar gets his 4th goal of the night, having completed his hat-trick in the third period. 4 for Dunbar, 1 for Gardner from Dunbar. A pretty good evening all in all for John Dunbar, as the Sharks overcome their lack of goal scoring the night before at the Link Centre. Romford, 0-point weekend for them, but a 4-point weekend for the Peterborough Phantoms. As they end up on the right side of a 5-4 win here. Peterborough managing to kind of turn this one on the head, and a few issues then as well for Romford heading into that semi-final, because a game misconduct penalty to Zach Yokoyama has been sent to the Department of Player Safety. He could be staring down missing out on that second leg of the semi-final because of his hit. Some people have say it was awful. Some people said it should be downgraded. I suppose we'll find out on this one. But either way, a big 4-point weekend for the Phantoms, who, again, in the league, slightly inconsistent. Andrew Schufelt, Zach Yokoyama, TJ Anderson and Brandon Aliff for the Raiders, Austin Mitchell-King, Tom Norton with 2, and Luke Ferrara with 2 for the Phantoms. And then there was this cracking game, one that Jack McCarthy ended up commentating on apparently on 10 minutes notice, which is terrifying, and one that you could wonder whether you could have rung him up slightly before that. But either way, a 4-point weekend for the Knights, having come off the back of a couple of defeats. They then managed to win the latest instalment of the Nel Clasico. Edgar Bebris being called for too many men in overtime, and John Boycer converts on the power play. The Knights having to come from 1-0 and 2-1 down, ending up winning this game. So as we mentioned, Boycer with the winner, Noah McMullen and Finn Braden with the other goals for the Knights, Tomasz Malazinski and Edgar Bebris on the board for the Wildcats, who do pick up a point and get a 3-point weekend themselves. And then Telford screwed the pooch in this one, 5-1 up. 5-1 up at the end of the first period. Hull win in overtime. A true captain's performance from Bobby Chamberlain, a 4-goal night from the man with the C for the Seahawks. And if you're Telford, you're kicking yourself here, because I was in Basingstoke when Romford were 5-1 up after 40 minutes and lost in overtime as well. You want the ground to swallow you up. I can only imagine how bad this feels. Finn Howells, James Smith, Vlad Luca, Jason Silverthorne and Harry Ferguson all scoring in the first period for the Tigers. Deck Jones short-handed, and then as we mentioned, 4 goals from Bobby Chamberlain end up taking the game to overtime. Lee Bonner from Davy Phillips is your overtime winner. Let's have a quick look then at the table in the National Division. As we can see, the MK Lightning, grumblings from some sections of their fan base aside, still sit atop the NIHL National Division. They have played 25 games to Leeds' 24, and the Knights, with that game in hand, are only 2 points behind. So the fact that the title race is still very, very open. There is then a 5-point drop from Leeds to Swindon, who of course, having now caught up with games, are very much more in the title race back as they were. Peterborough Peterborough and Sheffield tied on 30 points. Peterborough hold the tiebreak and go 4th. Hull in 6th place on 29. Romford on 28 after their 0-point weekend. And Solway firmly keeping themselves inside the playoff positions. 22 points from 24 games. Means that they are 3 games in hand still over the Tigers, having with 2 extra points. The issue for the Sharks, of course, is who are they going to be playing, and the Sharks need to keep up whatever good momentum they can get. They are on the inside looking out. Telford, Bristol, and the Bees at the bottom there are on the outside looking in. The fixtures then, the fantastic graphic talents, of course, of Max Van Mullen doing the business for us, as tomorrow night we will know the first entrant into the NIHL National Division Cup final. The Romford Raiders lead the tie by 1 goal after the first leg, and the 2 teams will come together at the Thunderdome, 7:45 p.m. tomorrow night. It promises to be an absolute cracker. Buy your streams from Lightning TV if you can't be in the building, and ultimately may the best team win. Fascinated to see how this one shapes out. On Friday then, we have what is a bit of an interlude with the GB Women's Olympic Qualifying Tournament happening this weekend at Sheffield. The women play on Thursday, Saturday and Sunday in their bid to go one better than the men and make it to Milano 2026. But on Friday evening, everybody gets a bit of an evening off, and they get the benefit of the Sheffield Steel Dogs and the Peterborough Phantoms in NIHL National Division action. Into Saturday, and the full docket of fixtures then across the National Division, as we mentioned, Swindon play Hull, and elsewhere we have the Bristol Pitbulls and the Sheffield Steel Dogs in the Puppy Bowl. Leeds take on Romford. It could be a very tired Romford side depending on what's happened on Thursday night for them. MK host Telford. Solway host the Bees. As I said, you can catch Andy Glenn and Joe Scott on the stream on Sharks TV. On Sunday then, Hull welcome Bristol up to the world's most versatile arena. Always an interesting game between Peterborough and Swindon. We'll definitely keep an eye on that one. Romford and Leeds will trade places in their home and home series. The Sharks and the Bees finish off their double header, and Telford welcome MK. So there we go then, that's the National Division. We'll catch up with Divisions 1 and 2 momentarily. Let's have a quick look at the chat. Talking of men's bands, anybody know when Ralph Sesenis is free to play again? Anyone heard where he might end up? Guessing Bees will try for him. They need bodies. My understanding is Ralph Sesenis is free to play from the 1st of January 2025. You have to think that the Bees will have at least called him. You venture as well potentially because of how productive he was under Slava Kulikov that Peterborough will come calling as well. Andrew Day, Raiders were not the races at Hull. Seahawks did well, keeping Miller and Shue quiet. Phillips and Cooper had a fight. They did. Joe Scott, it was three. It was just three. Just saw legs on jump on Morris and didn't realise it was a lino. I mean, knowing Mo, what had he said to the lino in the past? In the past, I imagine tell for the Leston police following today's game review panel decision. We'll just pull that back up because I've still got Saturdays. Where's Sunday? Let's pull up the decisions from Sunday in that one because Tanner Butler and Zach Yokoyama referred. Deacon Fielder given Deacon Fielder getting a penalty for fighting. Bobby Chamberlain. So Bobby Chamberlain gets 5 penalty points, free to play, subject to penalties. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is on that front. Karen, yeah, not fun. Worse after Dops today. Seems our luck this year. Very much so. Sorry. Going tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing the ladies in action. Yeah, it should be fantastic. I believe Andrew's going. I don't know. Do correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. But Andrew's stuck the details there. The Women's Olympic qualifiers at Ice Sheffield. All GB games are facing off at 4 p.m. Thursday the 12th against Latvia, Saturday the 14th against Spain, and then Sunday the 15th against the Netherlands. Here's the thing we haven't talked about for quite a while, is that the GB women have always been that little step closer to qualifying for the Olympics than GB's men. I really, really hope they do this. It would be huge. Not just for ice hockey in Britain, but particularly for women's hockey. Yeah, Chamberlain should have been thrown out 9 minutes in, goes on to score 4. Bobby Chamberlain is a singular player, and to be fair though, let's look at this. Is this the first big mistake of the game review panel? If we're all unhappy about it, because I've not had the opportunity in amongst work and organising my own life this week to see exactly what's happening. So let's read this out actually, because some people may not have seen it. So. After reviewing the video and the additional footage requested, Hull 21 is clearly the instigator of the fight as described in Rule 46.3. That's in the IHF rulebook. An instigator / initiator of an altercation shall be a player who by their actions or demeanour demonstrates any / some of the following criteria: distance travelled, gloves off first punch thrown. I mean, it's Bobby. After a check on the boards made by Telford 26, which is Deacon Fielder, a line change is made and Hull 21 skates from the bench directly at Telford 26, drops his glove first and instigates the fight in which they are both equal and willing combatants. The correct call under 46.3 for a player who is deemed to be the instigator of an altercation should be assist a minor penalty plus a major penalty and game misconduct. An automatic game misconduct, the player receives 5 penalty points and is free to play. So they tacked on the penalty without... And he wasn't thrown out when he should have been. Oh dear. So the game review panel making up for the mistake made on the ice, as it were. Andrew keeping us up there now. 5-1 Giants still. 4-0 Steelers. Thanks to Mitchell Balmas. 1-1 in Coventry. Reed Duke tying the scores at the Sky Dome. That's a big game there in Group A of the Challenge Cup in the Elite League. Coventry are trying to avoid the play-in against the team that finishes second in Group B, because why they couldn't just have 2 groups of 5. So Coventry are trying to play themselves into that second automatic semi-finals space is the plan on that one. But they need to beat the Cardiff Devils to do so. So yeah, so Chamberlain should have been thrown out in 9 minutes in, goes on to score 4. Yeah, that ain't good. The question then, so the game review panel seemingly have done the right thing. The second time the instigator mistake was made last weekend, of course, because in the past they wouldn't have got a misconduct for it, but because seemingly yes as well, there may well have been a mistake in the Bees Knights game. So here's the question then for everybody, and I'm interested. Stick it in the chat if you've got any thoughts on it. Right. So in the Elite League, of course, we saw a referee slew foot a player. And he then didn't appear on any game sheets for the better part of a fortnight. But I think it was about 2.5 weeks that that official didn't officiate a game. Where we end up... So what happens then, I wonder? Because what you'd hope is that the refs have been sat down, the mistake has been explained to them. What happens from here? What happens from here for them? Are they shown? Are they told? I will do some digging around for some of the officials that that will quite happily have a bit of a chat off, sort of without names, as it were, to let us kind of know what happens in this circumstance. Because you'd hope the referee managers will sit down with the person and go, right, this is what you've done, this is what you should have done instead. Something happening in the moment happens to us all, right? And sometimes the consequences of that are astronomical, and sometimes they are not. But ultimately, if you end up influencing a game in that way, you're going to feel pretty sick afterwards, aren't you? Because you can't kind of take it back once you've made the decision. But obviously in the past, it would have just been an additional 2 for instigating, and unfortunately it appears on that circumstance the official has made the wrong call. We had the same thing occur to Adam Harding at our game in Swindon. Sadly, he didn't go on to score 4 goals in our 10-4 loss. Nah, that's probably asking a bit much of him, all things considered. Andrew, unfortunately can't make GB Women, doing Raiders updates Thursday and Sunday, and promised a family day on Saturday. Of course, definitely need to honour such things there. Can't give up such things at all. What's going on there? That seems to be working all right. Going a bit slow and a bit jilted. Buzzing for the GB Ladies games. Adam Mackman, of course, who does ZPG Ice Maidens, is on comms. If you're getting the stream from Ice Hockey UK, good news all round. Dear me, I am lagging, aren't I? I did joke to the Swindon Wildcats people that that my tech would break eventually. Let's just have a quick squiz. Any other news that's popped up there? Alex Nylander on waivers. Not much of things. So there we are. The Olympic qualifiers. £4 for one game. £10 for the full tournament for all 3 streams for GB Women. Not bad. Ultimately, mistakes happen and they just need to learn from it. It does seem IHUK need to clarify the instigator rule with their on-ice officials if the same thing keeps happening. Agree. Thanks for that, Tom. It's just a shame we had a few weeks of really good officiating. The lack of consistency is maddening, however. And I think it's always going to be a problem with an objective rule book and different people trying to subjectively apply those rules. I think the best that we can ask for is that consistency is what you ask for, because you can't expect every ref to call everything exactly the same, but you would like them to call the big stuff the same, I think. They should have the call explained to them with video and all that, but should be given a point on their licence. After X amount of points, they should have to resit the reffing course. Well, I think here's the thing. Twofold problem with that. One, we are short of officials. And I think taking licences away, which should be done for gross elements of misconduct, like really, really bad things, like the guy in the Premier League's worth of stuff. But I think as well, ultimately what will happen is less of a resitting, of course. They just will have to end up officiating at lower levels. That's where that will end up being. It's why it's why some officials only do Division 1 and Division 2, because they're not at that level. And ultimately, if you keep making mistakes at that higher tier, you will find your games at that higher tier slowly getting reduced. So there is an incentive not to do it, because ultimately, if clubs end up complaining about one official always calling one thing in the incorrect way, it will get looked at. Now, here's the thing. Players aren't great at knowing the rules. And I've seen this happen in game. I think we all have. Players complaining that you can't give a penalty shot because you gave them a delayed penalty. Like, silly things like that, right? And ultimately, we need to keep officials. So disincentivizing them to even be involved feels like a bad idea. Like, we'll take your license away if you make X number, like 3 strikes and you're out. Well, spoiler alert, refs will make a mistake again somewhere. They will do something that they're not happy with. They are generally quite self-critical because they want to do well, like all of us do. I think of how there is a thin line you have to walk between the confidence to do what you do and the ability to be critical of what you do. Not like, I'm terrible, but break down what you could have done better. And it's the same thing, whether it's writing, whether it's making stuff like this, whether it's commentating. Like, I mean, people who know me well will tell you that I have an ego, and I definitely 100% have an ego. But one of the things I do try to, at least I've gotten better at with age, I was terrible at it when I was younger, was just accepting the fact that I'm going to make a mistake somewhere. And actually walking towards that mistake and trying to acknowledge that, 1, you've done something wrong, and 2, how can you try not to do it again? is generally a way to do it. I'm a maddening person to be around. Quiet, Joe. But I try to do things in kind of like a well-intentioned way. And spoiler alert, none of the refs hate your team. None of them hate your team at all. It just is what it is. The boys from Macca's Talk Hockey have joined the party. Would love to see the refs on mic doing penalty calls like the NHL. Then the boos will ring around the home play after a home player gets a penalty. 100%. We also have to avoid being too harsh on officials where mistakes happen, because you don't want refs to be scared to make big calls in case they get it wrong. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the referees need to have the confidence to know that they are in charge of officiating the game, and it isn't called by the fans. Being, it's not WWE. Don't get me wrong. I love my pro wrestling too. I wouldn't be with my wife without pro wrestling, but the jeering and the booing of certain bits and pieces in a fun and exciting scripted live theatre performance is not the same as sport. So we need to, but I think there is something to be said about just like how that, you can be upset with it, but ultimately you need to kind of sort of accept that no one's doing it to ruin your day on purpose. It's obviously different for it is different for some folk of us, like myself, like some of the guys who do podcasts and stuff, because we've built up these relationships with these officials. I can drop a referee a text after a game and say, "Can you explain that?" Or I can catch them in the pub afterwards. And actually, here's one for you: if you catch them in the pub afterwards and you're polite to them, and if it's any of the Welsh boys, if you buy them a drink, and you just ask them why is that called in that way, you'll get a really polite answer for the most part. Go about it like a dick. Break the golden rule, and they'll just tell you to go jog on. But most of them are generally, if you're polite about it, will explain it. You just have to take that answer with good grace. That's how that works, really. On the microphone thing, the thing from the Macca's boys stuck on there. I'll say this: that is an awful lot of confidence in the technology that some rinks are able to do. Boy, can you imagine it? Can you imagine Basingstoke with some trying to get all that hooked up? That would never have worked in a million years. Or in Gosport, you can just shout really loudly and everybody will hear it. I can't lie. I'm looking forward to getting back to Gosport and looking forward to getting back to South 1 on Saturday. And like I say, it was kind of influenced by the fact that I've already seen Wildcats versus Seahawks this weekend. Though, of course, have a lot of time for the Wildcats. Lots of good people there. Have a lot of time for Matty Davies as well. And obviously, of course, I have my history with Hull, but the ability to see a game between two sides that I've not been able to see as much this year. Certainly I've not been able to see Streatham with my own two eyes this season, though I can watch the highlights now. Zing! Go watch them on the Redhawks YouTube channel and thank Chris Beale later. But the ability to see games that I've not had the opportunity to see this season is really good. Streatham, of course, are a different side this year. It's a much different league this year. Chelmsford are stronger and having won the playoffs. The Jets, of course, are, I told them off last week and I stand on every word I said about it, but I also stand on the fact that they are a very exciting team and they are a good lot of fun to watch. So the ability to go watch that is good. And actually, I will keep repeating this till I'm blue in the face. Don't get so stuck in your bubble of what you watch on the regular that if you get the opportunity to go check out something else, go. If you're in Swindon and you watch the Wildcats, go watch Wildcats NHL 1. If you're, there might be a few Flames folk who've dipped in because of my involvement up there. If you go watch the Flames, go watch the Phoenix. If you go watch the Phoenix and don't watch the Flames, go watch the Flames. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose but money, which you can't take with you anyway, and you get the experience of something different. Like, if you're in Leeds, go watch the Knights NHL 1. Yeah, they're not at the top of the table in Div 1, but you're going to see some fantastic teams like Billingham and Blackburn and Solihull look really good, having actually had the opportunity to see them. Hull are bizarre this year in North 1. If you're in the South, like and I'll say this, I know that maybe the teams don't like each other much, but if you're a Bees fan, go watch the Jets. If you're a Jets fan, go watch the Bees. Like, get your hockey where you can find it, because outside of the stuff that we watch all the time is the ability to gain better perspective. Better perspective means better knowledge means better understanding, and ultimately it will help. I genuinely believe it will help your experience of watching hockey if you are able to kind of glean bits from other places. Don't just stand on what you know, because ultimately it is ultimately, like I say, you end up getting so much more out of what you watch regularly when you have had the ability to see other bits and pieces. And as ever, if you have the money, don't make yourself poor for the sake of hockey, but if you have the ability, go watch hockey abroad. Go watch the NHL, go watch the DEL, go watch the Lee Magnus, go watch the Metal League, and maybe don't go watch the KHL. That might be the one caveat, or the North Korean Premier League. But, go check out hockey. Hockey's amazing. Find it where you can. Dave, I went to commentary last Sunday. As a Rumford fan, I can only imagine why. Great game, even though they lost 6-1 against the Belfast Giants. Yeah, that was a tough one for Cov. Cov was such a weird side. It's really interesting as well. I said this in the box thinking this week about the Flames. The similarities between the Guildford Flames and the Slough Jets in terms of that structured game they like to play is alarmingly similar, and I can kind of see why Sean Norris went there. But yeah, both teams kind of suffer from that same thing sometimes, which is that they stick to their structure so much that actually the times they could do with flexing that structure, they don't do that, and they just rigidly cling on. And there are some times where you need to just stick the course, stay the course. And actually against the Panthers, that did really, really well for the Flames, because the Panthers were such an odd, was just bouncing around, blowing hot and blowing cold. So you staying consistent was really helpful there. But against Coventry, who played this weird, if you're old like me and you remember the Dutch football team of the 80s and 90s, the Coventry tried to play total football in hockey form. Everybody plays everybody else's position, and if you're really structured, they will just walk around you, because Coventry are basically perpetual motion machines. The issue they have is they're just not as good. They just don't have as high a skill level as Belfast. That's really hard for them. They will get games where they get caught out and get walloped. Case in point, losing 6-1 at home to Belfast. Go check stuff out. It's fun. Either way, we've done the national division. We've done a bit of a chat. Keep the questions, keep the thoughts, keep everything coming in. Let's have a look, though, across the rest of the NIHL, because we've got 5 divisions worth of bits and pieces before Andrew inevitably chucks in the WNIHL scores in a couple of minutes. We'll head up north into North 1 and... Blackburn do it again. They beat Billingham and inflict the 3rd defeat of the season on the league leading Stars, but much closer this time, 6-4 in the end. And Blackburn coming from 4-1 down to end up winning this game. Feels like the playoffs last year, doesn't it, Stephen Foster? Ultimately, Liam Charnock getting what turned out to be the game-winning goal at 39-13, and then a back-and-forth third period before Adam Barnes seals the deal. Only 6 minutes of penalties in the entirety of the game. 2 goals from Barnes, including that empty netter, and then goals from Liam Charnock, Andy McKinney, Jacob Lutwich and Aaron Davies for the Hawks. Chris Sykes, Roland Grittans, Luke Stoudle and Ian Brown for the Stars. Brown is now, let's just double check this in terms of Ian Brown. 35 goals in 18 games. Mental numbers. Solihull, who have obviously made a decent addition recently with Corey Goodison signing on after his brief stint back with Telford. They get an 8-2 win over Widnes, who of course are still struggling mightily, although of course do have points on the board now. An 8-1 win at Hobbs Moat Road for the Barons. Pretty comfortable win in the end. If we we just squeeze our way down there. Only 20 shots for the Wild and 8 goals on 36 shots. That's clinical shooting from the Barons. Sam Chandler with 2 goals, 4 for Dan Mulcahy, 1 for Charlie Webb and 1 for Nicholas Otterson, who went 1+6 on the evening. Luke Alston and Michael Gilbert with the goals for the Wild. And a win for the Leeds Knights. Leeds Knights NHL won their 4th win of the campaign as they and the Scimitars keep battling towards that last playoff spot. But a big win for the Knights. Goals for the Shims coming from George Crawshaw and Ben Cutts. Michael Denecko, Fritz Heinzler and Ollie Wag with the game winner for the Knights. All the goals coming before the half-hour mark. So pretty back and forth back half of the game there. Nick Winters in the Scimitars net facing 52 shots, and the Shims pulling the netminder with over 2 minutes to go. On Sunday then, Deeside and Leeds went and did the usual thing that happens, and let's all do it together. Sing along if you know the words. Why defend when you cannot defend? Deeside 8, Leeds 5. in a game that was tied at 4-4 after 25 minutes before Deeside started pulling away in this one. Also, the fantastic thing there is, if you notice, of course, that Jakub Hayek scores an empty net goal with 8 seconds to go, and Deeside then score a regular goal with 1 second to go. I love hockey sometimes. It throws up the most ridiculous of things. A 1+4 night for Jake Witkowski, 2 goals for Ross Kennedy, and goals as well from Jared Dickinson, Matt Wainwright, Jakub Hayek, as we mentioned, Will Harper and Alex Parry for the Dragons. A hat-trick for Edgar Zvengis in a guest appearance for the Knights, and Ollie Wag and Fritz Heinzler with the other goals. It's productive stuff, and a 4-assist night from Michael Daneko. The Knights are clearly starting to wind up a little bit there. Hopefully they can kind of get a few more wins before the end of the season. Deeside are still pushing on. And then, well, revenge is sweet as the Stars slap the Hawks square across the face. 9-0. Ian Brown has now finished the night. The Billingham Stars have played 9 games in 1 North in league action. Ian Brown has 39 goals. Just silly numbers. Silly numbers. All in all there. And a pretty comfortable one there. A 35-shot shutout for Jacob Hammond. So, the Stars, I believe, what's that, 62? Yeah, 62 there in the end there. And very few penalty minutes in this game as well. Again, just like the night before. James Moss, Chris Sykes, Conor McNulty, of course, who's now full-time with the Stars, having joined from Kilmarnock. 2 for Michael Elder, and a 4-goal night for Ian Brown, who is, like I say, just into the ridiculousness of goal numbers at this point. Big win for the Hull Jets. They give the Whitley Warriors a lesson at the world's most versatile arena. 6-1 to keep the Jets flying high in this one. Owen Yarrow breaking the shutout with 61 seconds to go. Goals then, 2 from Vlad Volkanov's goals as well from Rhys Edwards, 2 from Kieran Beach, and 1 from Ian Kerman. And then the last game of the evening, of course, late night fun at the NIC on the CCM rink for the Nottingham Lions and the Solihull Barons. And it's a 6-point weekend for Solihull as they defeat Nottingham by 8-4. Game was tied at 4-4 with just under 15 minutes to go before Solihull pulled themselves away in this one. Again, one of the Lions will be ruining their defensive frailties at times. A hat-trick for Dan Hyde, 2 goals for Jordan Jolly, 2 for Corey Goodison and 1 for Nicholas Otterson, and another 4-point night for the Swede for Solihull. Bailey Challens on his return to the Lions with a goal, as along with goals for Ethan Smith, Luke Birchnell and Alish Padalek for the Lions in that one. And then this upcoming weekend in North 1, it's on the big pad at the NIC for the Nottingham Lions as they take on the Billingham Stars. 5:30 in Hull for the Jets and the Deeside Dragons, and then 7:40 PM at Sheffield, the Scimitars take on the Widnes Wild as they have to fit in around the GB Women's Olympic qualifying tournament. Sunday the 15th at Hobbsmoat Road, it's the Barons versus the Knights in some sort of chivalrous encounter, potentially. We'll see if there's any penalty minutes. 6 PM Blackburn versus Widnes, and in 7:20 the small pad at the NIC. It's the Derby, the Nottingham Lions and the Sheffield Scimitars. If we quickly scoot back to the top, we have the table then for North 1. Billingham have played 1 game more than Blackburn, but are more than clear in terms of points at the moment. Hull, Deeside, Solihull, Whitley, Nottingham and Leeds are in the playoff spots currently. Although that battle between the Knights and the Scimitars is going to be interesting. Just 3 points in it. The Knights and the Shims have played the same number of games. Widnes, well, they need to win both of those games in hand to even have a chance at the moment, but they do sit out of the running. In terms of the Cup, at the moment, we know Blackburn and Hull have qualified from Group B. It's just a matter of who finishes top. In Group A at the moment, well, the Stars still have a lot of games to play in the Cup, though, as I say, eventually we're heading towards the Deeside Billingham second group of semi-finalists. I'd rather not talk about it as the Blackburn fan. Cardiff lead through Evan Mosey in the Sky Dome. Tough one there for Coventry. They need to find a way back into that one. We head then into South 1. And a good night for our friend Max Van Mullen and the Romford Buccaneers as they give Oxford another almighty slapping. 11-1 for the Bucks, their biggest win of the season so far and their 10th win of the campaign. The shutout being broken by Alex Tidings just after the halfway mark. But if we skip down into it was all about the twos. Noah's Ark's worth of goals. Phil Maguire, Brad Taylor, Shea Woolmore and Uri Husker with 2 apiece. Don Campbell, Luca Pasquale and Aidan Wilson, who guested before his departure from Romford on Saturday evening. As we mentioned, the lone goal, Alex Tidings there. 45 shots for all of those goals. Both Ross Miller and Morgan Parsons seeing time in net. 1 goal on 34 for our graphics boy, Max Van Mullen, whose interview you can check out on the Romford Buccaneers YouTube channel this week. Sunday, a bit of a tougher task for the Buccaneers as they had to travel to Slough. And ultimately, the Jets are the Jets. Only 2 defeats in 18 games. They remain an absolute wagon. 6-2 for the Jets in this one. The game was tied at 2-2 at just after 31 minutes. Christian Moore and Dylan Halicka's goals counted out by Callum Burnett, who's joined up with the Buccaneers, and Tom Wilson. Not that Tom Wilson. But then Harvey Harman, 2 from Seb Moore, and Ollie Hemmings-Mayer doing the damage, and the Jets pick up 3 points on the weekend. A shutout win in Chelmsford for the Chieftains. They beat the Swindon Wildcats by 4-0. Pretty impressive performance from the Wildcats, all things considered, having travelled with a shorter bench. Jay Warren, as you can see there though for the Wildcats, the penalties were all bench, or Jay Warren. Never changed, Jay. But Cam Bartlett with a hat-trick and Alan Lack with the goals for the Chieftains in this one. A 14-shot shutout for Jordan Lauday as Ben Clark-Leach, freshly minted with his new developmental contract with the Wildcats, concedes 4 on 51. Elsewhere on Sunday, well, the Stars concede double figures back-to-back as, yeah, they had to take on Streatham at home, so of course they got absolutely shellacked. Oxford, though, were leading for about 2 minutes. Jake Williams opening the scoring before Streatham decided to wake up and give them a kicking heading into this weekend and keep themselves at 15-1. Goals for the Redhawks, one from the player coach Ben Painter, 2 for Ethan Lane, 2 for the man of the match George Norcliffe, and then goals from Jared Lane, Danny Ingoldsby, Harvey Stead, Luke Brittle and Aidan Doughty. The Solent Devils, of course, who Streatham will play this coming Saturday evening with one that might have been a little bit tougher than they expected, but ultimately there was 7-0 to the good before MK started scoring. A 9-3 win for Alex Murray's side in this one, which of course will give them a big bit of confidence heading into what should be a very tough night on Saturday. Zander Robinson, Alistair Barrow and Sam Dean with the goals for the Thunder. Mark Pitts, Liam Coleman, Alex Murray and Leo Harris freshly added to the roster with single goals there. 2 for Harry Harcup and a hat-trick for his former base at Buffalo compatriot Cam Buckle. A 5-point night for Buckle, his first hat-trick at NHL 1 level. This upcoming weekend then, as we mentioned, Solent versus Streatham. I will be in Gosport on Saturday evening for that one, 5 p.m. at Planet Ice Gosport. 5:15 at the Sapphire. Can the Buccaneers get revenge against the Slough Jets for their defeat last weekend? 5:45 at the Riverside, the Chieftains and the Oxford City Stars. And also at 5:45, Invicta take on Cardiff. Sunday, the City Stars head home. They take on what looks like a decent enough team in the Dynamos, but they do have a tendency to blow very, very hot and cold this year. Can the Stars spring a surprise? 6:30 at the Link Centre, the NHL 1 Wildcats take on the Solent Devils. 6:45 in the Bay, Cardiff versus MK. And 6:45 on the High Road, a big game in terms of the potential title destination in South 1. Streatham take on Chelmsford. Absolute rate Jay Warren as a player, but it really needs to keep his mouth shut from time to time. I mean, that's impressive, isn't it? Where the only penalties are bench and you. That is a lesson to keep your mouth shut on that front. Oh, apologies. That's the one thing we didn't do. If we will come back, let's go to... Get rid of that, can't we? Let's just quickly scoot at the table then in South 1, because Streatham have 2 games in hand on the Jets and are 3 points behind, so the Redhawks could still go top. Chelmsford have 1 game in hand on Slough, but cannot catch them. They trailed the Jets by 4 points. Solent have dropped down to 4th. They've played 20 games, and then there is, as you can see, a pretty big gap between the Devils in 4th and the Buccaneers in 5th, albeit I think the Buccaneers are kind of outperforming what a lot of people's expectations were for them, much like the Raiders are in the National Division this year. Followed by Invicta, Swindon and Oxford are on the outside looking in, but there is a 10-point gap between 7th and 8th. Cardiff are on 7 points, but have 5 games in hand on Oxford. The problem, of course, is they're all going to be teams above them, and MK with that 1 lone win in 20 games, 1-19. Into North 2 then, and this game was streamed live on Facebook. The Sharks have made a habit of doing that. Definitely recommend checking it out and getting an idea if you haven't had the opportunity. As you have your lunch, see what the Sharks do. They generally like to face off at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so no excuses to have a, if you're going to have a nice warm Saturday afternoon lunch, get a bit of hockey on Facebook into the bargain and check out the Kingston Sharks. Albeit the Sutton Sting just keep rolling along. 16 from 16 for the Sting, who were pegged back slightly. It was 3-2 after 24 minutes. Josh Humphreys, Joe Colton and Ryan Aspley with goals for the Sting. Scott Howes and Ethan Dainton made it a close game, but the rest of the goals actually came relatively shortly afterwards. Another from Aspley and another from Colton. All 7 goals in this game in the back of the net before the 27-minute mark. But it's another 3 points on the board for Sutton. The Telford Tigers, they were run pretty close, but they also maintained their unbeaten record. 14-0 at this point for the Tigers as they win by 3-2 in the Sky Dome. The game that they lost last year, Telford's lone loss in the league, was away at Coventry, but the Blaze unable to spring the surprise this time, and it was 2-2 after 12 minutes. Tom Brooks-Smith had his goal cancelled out by Carroll Jets. Lewis Smith made it 2-1 before Ollie Harris tied the game, and the game winner coming at 24-26 from Liam Bartholomew, one of those long-time campaigners for the Tigers at Division 2 level. But ultimately it is Telford who do the business again and push their way past the NHL Blaze. The Billingham Buccaneers, who still hanging around there waiting for somebody to slip up, they get a good 5-2 win away at the Sheffield Titans on Sunday, having been 2-0 and then 5-1 up in terms of the goals from Sheffield. Joe Matthewman and Finley Williams. Pretty productive season so far from Joe Matthewman. His name keeps popping up when we have these chats about North 2. 2 goals from Sam Dowd, and then goals from Stuart Jackson, Lewis Hall with 2, and Finley Williams with the 5th goal right at the death there for the Buccaneers. Without Stephen Wallace, I notice he doesn't like to travel too much, does Steve? But when you've played that much, you don't owe anybody any explanation. 40 saves on the night for the Titans from Nathaniel Bell. And then there's this. Altrincham are slowly playing their way towards a cup semi-final. Seems to be a thing about Kingston Sutton running out of goal again. Apologies, Karen. Yes, I forgot that one was called at 40 minutes because Kingston's goalie couldn't play, so Sutton's backup went in and they just played the last 20 minutes. North 2, everyone. Altrincham 16-4 winners over D-side. And my understanding is that this sets up a potentially interesting situation where all Altrincham need to do to steal that last cup semi-final spot away from Coventry is beat D-side by 4 goals. Well, they certainly did the business here. An absolute shellacking in Manchester. Goals for the Ducks coming from Gary Dixon, Kieran Clarkson, Josh Jones and Daniel Svadievs. Goals for the Aces, 2 for Billy King, 2 for Clark Price, 2 for David Kaminacek, a hat-trick for Josh Milnes, 2 for Jake Forst, and then the lone goals from Sam Dumford, Max Sullivan, CJ Ashton, James Best and Ollie Gott. So 4 assist nights for Kane Morin and Malachi Budd. Looking at that, everybody gets to go on that one. The only person who didn't get any ice time was Mike Rogers, and you kind of wonder what happened there when you're 16-4 up and not getting ice time. Either way, 4 games this weekend in North 2, and you'll see it there if you haven't noticed it already. D-side play Bradford at 5, Altrincham play Kingston at 5:45, but 5:30, the big one. Karen, I know, will be in there. Will be probably watching between fingers, but it is the big one that we have been talking about. The unstoppable force meets the immovable object. Somebody's perfect record goes on Saturday night, 5:30 at Telford. Telford, Sutton, who gets the advantage when it comes towards the league title? And then one lone game on Sunday between the Billingham Buccaneers and the D-side Ducks. That will be at 5:30 p.m. at the Forum. Look at the table then, as we said, it's those 2, and that's pretty much it. In terms of the playoffs at the bottom, though, Bradford in at the moment, but only 5 points ahead of the D-side Ducks with 2 games in hand. If the Ducks can somehow pull out wins in those games in hand, that would put them on 11 points and would put them potentially even above Sheffield and into the playoffs at the first time of asking. It'd be a pretty big task for the Ducks, but not impossible. And as we've seen there, it's between Coventry and Altrincham for the last space. and it is advantage Altrincham at the moment. If they win that, if they have one last game in the cup against D-side, they need to win by 4 goals, and they will steal away the last spot from the Coventry Blaze. Oh, apologies there. Toss the Teddy and skate with the players after as well. Couldn't be more reasons to go and watch for sure. Yeah, Andrew, there. Proper game between Kingston and Sutton finished end the second due to an injury to the Sharks netminder. The third period started 0-0 running clock. At least they did something about it. Give guys ice time and stuff. And then there's this. Bristol, who finally got on the board last weekend, having it took them a long time to get their first win of the season, and they did not get their second at home this weekend. An absolute kicking on the hands of the Invicta Mustangs, who were 5-0 up after just 25 minutes in this one. Pretty impressive win. The Mustangs, I don't think they're in the title picture, but they could be sniffing around after the playoffs. And what is the lesson here on the What's Current stream? We don't count the Invicta Mustangs out in the playoffs. 47 shots as well for the Mustangs in this one. Goals for the Pitbulls, as you can see, they're really short benched in this one. Ollie Schoen, Reece Young, James Wood and Andre Norris with the goals. And also, you might have noticed here, but somebody's out of retirement in Division 2 in the form of Pitbull's owner Richie Hargreaves back on the ice. Goals for the Mustangs, 2 for Aaron Ferris, 2 for Tom Mallet, Jake Stedman, Luke Thurkettle, Tom Dennis, Joe Gibson, Bailey Humphrey, Anthony Baskerville and Ed Gibson with a goal each, and another 2 goals coming from Sam Oliver. Alex Cole in goal for all 47, as Morgan Garside has now reappeared at Bristol. He was backing up for this one following his departure from the Cardiff Canucks. Heath Prentice, 4 goals and 23 at the other end for the Mustangs. And then a good win for Haringey. Having ended the unbeaten run of the Peterborough Phantoms, they get a second win on the bounce. They beat the Chelmsford Warriors by 5 goals to 3 in a tight game down at the Riverside. One that the Huskies will have been wanting to win, and one that probably a lot of people have expected to win. So good job by the Warriors to put up a bit of a fight. Ben Powell and 2 goals from Sam Austin for the hosts. 2 goals from Ben Bendikos, and goals as well from Bradley Hildreth, Joe Tyrrell and Stuart Appleby, getting the Huskies over the line there. Only 20 shots faced by Dylan Phillips in the course of that game. Alexei Koklov faces 42 at the other. Oxford and Solent, in probably the closest thing to a derby, apart from maybe chucking Guildford into the mix here, but a free scoring game that the Rising Stars win by 7 goals to 5 at the Ox Pens, as they get their 5th win of the season. Nearly playing 500 hockey at the moment, the Stars, and they've had some good players who played last year for the City Stars, who decided to drop down, and a few good guys in that Devils team as well. Especially as the addition, as we mentioned recently, of Sam Brooks back playing again after 18 months out with an injury. As a few of the Division 1 Devils dropping down to play for this one. Goals for the Rising Stars, 2 from Ed Crotty, 2 for Caden Hughes, and goals for Chris Beckett, Mike Willock and Josh Oliver. The goals for the Junior Devils, 2 from Charlie Wedge, and goals from Charlie Ottewell, Sam Brooks, as we mentioned, and Aston Lacey. Roy Martin Edwards actually playing the majority of this game as well. Concedes 6 goals on 55 shots. Wherever Solent go, they just seem to let up a lot of shots for whatever reason. And Cardiff finally back in the winning column again after a few heavy defeats recently. They beat the Lee Valley Lions by 6 goals to 1. The tale of the Raffaelli brothers here, as both Giancomo and Giovanni now icing for Trevor Hendricks' side. The lone goal for the Lions coming from Dan Clayton. As I mentioned, Giancomo Raffaelli, Sam Davis, Joe Morris with goals as well, and then later on Clayton Morris and Raffaelli into the bargain there. 6-1 the final score in that one. Both netminders getting some time, including new netminder for the Canucks, Mackenzie McNamara, a female netminder, back in getting some ice in South 2. The Lions only managing 25 shots on the evening. Both Frame brothers getting the opportunity to ice in this one. And then the big one. If the big one this coming weekend was in North 2, the big one last weekend was in South 2, and Peterborough pulled a Telford on this one. The Phantoms 2, 3-0 up after 22 minutes. Guildford win in overtime, and the Phantoms lose again. Guildford's perfect record. Yes, the Phoenix have dropped points, but the Phoenix remain undefeated. There are still at the moment 3 undefeated sides across the entirety of the NIHL, and one of them is the Guildford Phoenix. Dan Martin with 2 goals, and Connor Pollard had the Phantoms ahead before 2 goals from Nick Min Hinnick. It's hard to say. And Theo Sire tying the game at 59-26 before Ollie Dennis's overtime-winning power play goal gives the extra point to Guildford on this one. Luke Clark facing 49 shots, so that tells you the sort of game that Guildford were trying to play. Fixtures this weekend, not tons in South 2, but 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. Oxford take on Lee Valley at the Oxpens at 6:15. Peterborough look to try and get back to winning ways as they take on the Cardiff Canucks. That's at 6:30 over in Breton. On Sunday, 5:30 over at Lee Valley. It's the battle of the capitals, the Lee Valley Lions and the Cardiff Canucks. And then in the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup, the Invicta Mustangs take on the Haringey Huskies. That's at 5:45 down in Gillingham. The table then. In South 2, well, it's a pretty picture still for the Peterborough Phantoms. Still the only team across the South having qualified for the playoffs. Sutton have done the business in the North, so at least they're not on their own anymore. Haringey up in 2nd, Invicta in 3rd. Guildford are in 4th. That's only because they've played 8 games. The ball remains firmly in the Phoenix's court with 3 games in hand over Invicta, 4 in hand over Haringey, and 5 in hand over Peterborough. And you know a lot of those games are going to be coming against the teams below them. The fixture list has been a bit wonky this year in South 2. When the Phoenix eventually catch up, it's going to be really, really hard. Joe, they're mentioning as well, game misconduct for Leo Markey for spitting in the Phantoms Phoenix game. So we will await any potential ban that comes out of that one. 4-0 Steelers end of 2nd against the Flames and end of 2nd in the Sky Dome. Cardiff leading by 2-1. We have then gone through and done the whole kit and caboodle, which is we've gone through every game of all 5 divisions, all the fixtures, all the results played, all the tables. That means the door is open. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chat about then. We're at about the 9:10 mark here on a Wednesday evening. Anything anybody wants to talk about, chuck it in. Let's have a chat about hockey. As people are doing that, I'm going to very quickly have a sip of water because clearly my throat needs it. Oh, yo. Definitely need that. There's that horrible tickle at the back of your throat as well. But very clearly, I'm not losing my voice at the moment, but it's just not. It's just just something sort of lurking back there. But yes, anybody wants to chuck in? As we've seen, Kieran Brown, Tanner Butler, Zach Yokoyama, Liam Morris, all potentially going to the naughty step. What do we think the bounds are going to be for that one? What do we reckon for games this upcoming weekend? Are we going to anything different? Will GB's women make it through to the next round of Olympic qualifying, which would be really awesome if they could? So that's what do we reckon? Stick those questions and those comments into the chat. Obviously, keeping tabs of things. The other lesson this week, of course, that Alexander Ovechkin is ridiculous and is back skating again already, which is mildly terrifying. And I don't understand how he recovers without everything just falling off the entire time. What else have we? Let's just quickly check, see whether any other news has popped up. And of course, tomorrow the Lightning and the Raiders, Cup semi-final, 2nd leg. Newsom Sheffield with the joined-up pathway now looks sensible at last. Here's the thing, the proof is in the pudding for that pathway, Karen, because so many teams... There's meant to be a pathway between MK. Like, the fact that the Steelers are involved, I think, is the bigger element of this, all things considered, because it's the first time we've seen that bit of involvement. And also the bigger news out of that isn't so much that that there's a pathway, but that the Steelers are going to invest into the Scimitars as well. The Scimitars will remain part of the Sheffield Junior Ice Hockey Club, but the Steelers are going to put some money in. And what does that look like at the bottom end? For the Shims, who, with all due respect, I've been for the last few years a bottom end NHL 1 North side. What does that look like for them? The proof will be in the pudding in this one, and this is something to look at in 18, 24 months' time, rather than thinking what's going to happen right now. We are not staring down the barrel of a Wayne Scholes here in terms of the Scimitars, because we certainly haven't seen it with the with the Steel Dogs. What that's been has been investment in infrastructure, less and certain individual players to help, rather than necessarily just trying to buy the league, of course, which I think what people worried that the Steel Dogs were going to do, and very clearly haven't. Romford have a rough week. MK tomorrow, then Leeds home and away. Cup semi-final for me is a bit of a toss-up, and I think it's ultimately going to be decided in the first 10 minutes. Romford need to keep it as tight as physically possible, because MK have always done best and have always succeeded with shock and awe. If they blow the Raiders out early, it's done. And I think that's the thing that I worry about, is that the occasion will get the better of some of those Romford players who are not used to playing in those kind of games. The longer the game goes on and the closer it is, the better the chance for Romford. Because Schufelt, Miller, I don't know, obviously if Yokoyama is suspended, they can't have an extra import out there. But Sylvester, Aleph, there's guys on Romford that just need one shot, right, to score. You need Ethan James to have the night of his life. Or if I'm Romford, I'm almost sacking off the weekend against Leeds, because that's going to be really tough. Because ultimately, I'm sorry Raiders fans, you're not winning the league, but you're 3 games away from winning the cup. There's going to be a focusing of resources here. And it's not necessarily that I'm, yes, I have an involvement with Romford. I write for their programme. This is my second year of writing for the Raiders programme. But there is a way for the Romford Raiders to win this game. Because ultimately all they have to do is not lose. The Raiders need to go out and try to win. Don't get me wrong. But there is a situation here where if the score is tied at 4-4 at 60 minutes, Romford are going to the final. That's what they need to do, is to find ways, keep it close, keep it tight, keep themselves within punching distance. Because if you need to get 3 goals against MK, against Jordan Headley on a big night, that's a tough ask. If the tie is level and you need to score 1 goal, Romford can achieve that. And they know they can achieve that because they scored 5 before. For MK, batter them. Roll the lines. Roll the lines. Roll the lines. Roll the lines. Have everybody out there. Run Romford ragged and just attack, 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 attack. That's how MK win this game. Because like I said, shock and awe is the Lightning's biggest weapon. They got a former NHLer playing in the National Ice Hockey League, for pity's sake. And yeah, Wallace is 40 years old. He would still, individual to individual, there is no player on that Romford side as good as Tim Wallace. But there are ways for both teams to lose this, and they could both lose it inside the first 5 minutes. Andrew there kindly putting up the bits and pieces from the WNIHL. 1 North, a win for the Kingston Diamonds Division 1 side. They beat the Sheffield Shadows by 5-2. And another tough night for the Nottingham Vipers, who I can't remember the last time I can't remember if they've even won this season, but a 4-1 win for the Caledonia Steel Queens. And then in the 2B in 2B South, Invicta Dynamics 2, Chelmsford Pythons 4. Love it. Fixtures then this upcoming weekend. There are a few fixtures. No Elite League fixtures this weekend for the women because, of course, of the Olympic qualifiers. In Division 2 North, the Caledonia Bees versus the Telford Arican Raiders, and in the 2B South, Cambridge Kodiaks versus the Slough Sirens. Sunday in 1 South, the MK Falcons take on the Swindon Top Cats, and the Chelmsford Cobras take on the Fire Bees in the Cup, in the 2 South Cup. The Solent Amazons take on the Oxford Midnight Stars. That'll be down in Gosport. What's Dave chucked in there? I'm hoping to get the Cambridge this Saturday. The GB girls are going to be pushing hard. They are definitely in for a shout. As for Yoki, he will get a game ban, but maybe we'll be able to play Leish. No, you cannot. If you have an import suspended, you are not allowed to replace another import into the side. So if you have an import suspended, you must play with 2. You are not allowed to play with a 3rd, is my understanding of the rules. So they would it would be Adam Leishram solely on the bench in a coaching capacity, or he plays himself over Schufelt or Miller, which, let's face it, he's not going to do. And if he does, he's insane. Because I think Adam Leishram is a very, very good player, but I think we can all agree he shouldn't be. He should sit himself on the bench for this one, all things considered. But yeah, a great chance for GB women this weekend. I really, really hope that they find a way to do that. By the looks of it, firstly, Belfast have beaten Dundee by 7-1, and secondly, Chase Gressuk has equalised for the Coventry Blaze with a Michigan. By the looks of that. The Elite League has just tweeted that one out. So yeah, if you're going to get back into it, that is the way to do it. So tie game at the Sky Dome, and it looks like Ben Bounds Michigan by Chase Gressuk. Let's just quickly. What's the other news out of GB? Of course, Ice Hockey UK and have announced a 3-year extension to their partnership with the GB Supporters Club. I feel that's a bit of a weird thing to have to announce. They're the Supporters Club. Were they really going to get an alternative? Of course, as well, GB have been playing a couple of warm-up games for those Olympic qualifiers. They did recently beat Spain by a score of 4-3, and then they did beat the Netherlands by 3-2 last night. Katie Henry with the winner for GB women there. So it's, as we mentioned, Latvia, Spain, and the Netherlands are the opponents for GB's women on this occasion. And yeah, icehockeyuk.tv, £10 gets you all 3 streams. As an aside, Ice Hockey UK, that's the pricing you should have whenever GB has a tournament. All the time. Get people watching. There's one thing Ice Hockey UK are clearly making a lot of different moves to try and do better things, to try and make the sport better governed. One thing they are terrible at is pushing out the GB product as far and wide as it possibly can do. They need to play games in more than just a couple of places, and like I say, that access element is just huge. £10 to watch GB women, that's an incentive for people. But yeah, they want more people watching ice hockey. Make it accessible. Get more sponsors on board. Charge less money. We shouldn't be paying like 50 quid to watch a tournament. People should be paying a tenner. In other countries where they have worked better on their infrastructure, people aren't charged that much. And actually, if this is the move towards that, that is really, really good. I hope we see more of it, because you want more people watching ice hockey. A better way would be to say to the BBC, can we stick it on the red button, please? Because there is definitely, if we're getting bits and pieces like that, every NHL and EIHL rink in this country has the ability to stream out of it. So why are we not encouraging stuff like that towards a broadcaster with wider reach than what we have? I realise that's a very easy thing to say and a harder thing to do. However, it does not detract from the fact that ultimately, if we want more people coming into ice hockey, we need to make it more accessible in every possible way. And hiding it behind massive paywalls isn't always going to be the way to do that. Wow, didn't know that. I mean, that's fine, Dave. Like, not everybody knows all of the rules. It's fine. And I don't remember them most of the time either, so it's okay. Where are we? 23 minutes past 9. Any more? So, housekeeping, because of course, what we would normally do, because the BLCW What's Current stream, normally, unless I accidentally poison myself or other bits and pieces come up, we usually go Wednesday nights at 8 PM. I love you all, but I don't think I should stream on Christmas Day, do you? So what we will do is we will look at when we do that. What I might do is I might do a poll at some stage, whether we do Thursday, whether we do Friday that week. It might be fun to potentially do stream during the Spengler Cup at some point, because of course, as you all know, big fan of the Spengler Cup, which runs from from Boxing Day to New Year's Eve over in Switzerland. It's one of the best tournaments in hockey for me, one of the highlights of my hockey year. So I always try to watch a good chunk of it, because it's always really, really fun. So maybe we do like a sort of a watch along whilst we stream, because obviously there'll be less games over Christmas. No, do Wednesday. No, I'll get killed by Emily. You've met my wife, Joe. She's scarier than you, so no. I am not doing I'm not streaming on Christmas Day. I think I'll get quite a telling off on that front. But yes, what a Do they have commentary for the Spengler games? So usually, what happens with Spengler, or at least what the Spengler Cup lot have done over the last couple of years, is that they have used on YouTube the TSN commentary feed. Now, the issue that we've had in Britain the last couple of years is that they've shown the semi-finals and the final on Premier Sports, which I don't know if they're doing this year. But let's face it, VPNs are a thing. So there are ways around that, but usually you will get the TSN commentary on the YouTube feed for it, on the Spengler Cup YouTube channel. Me personally, because of my thing with having learned German, I kind of get weirded out by, if I can get German commentary, I will generally listen to German commentary, particularly if it's hockey from a German-speaking nation. So I will generally try and stick on the VPN and I will watch it on SRF or something like that. So yeah, there's ways to find it. So, but yeah, it should be on YouTube. It's usually on YouTube somewhere for you to find, and definitely not in any other illicit places like On Hockey. Definitely not there at all. Yes, Stream Wednesday beats Christmas charades. You're just bad at charades, Jonathan. That's your problem, not mine. Chicken. I always follow the boss, as you well know, Joe. Always follow your boss when it comes to those things. So, from a What's Coming stream perspective, we will stream on the 18th because it's a Wednesday, and then Christmas week it'll be either Thursday or Friday, depending. And if it's during a Spengler Cup game, we will probably stream during the game and keep tabs on the game as we go. That'd probably be the way to do that by the look of things. Either way, we are heading very much towards 9:30, so we will say last call, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings. What do we have left from anybody that they want to chat about? Fascinated to see what happens in that game between Sutton and Telford, as Karen has stuck in the chat earlier. Teddy Bear toss there as well. Skate with the players after the game. Can you imagine if Telford lose and they have to go skate around and pretend to be happy with everybody? I always think that's always a really dangerous thing to do. I'd almost hold it on a different day, like do it on like a public skate during like half term, and do it that way instead. But yeah, tons of fun. But yes, I've got a couple of weeks off from Flames commentary. When am I back for Guildford? 28th of December for me, back to Guildford for the Flames and the Manchester Storm, because apparently I get to commentate on Manchester a lot, and then I'm back for the Flames after that. So my last game for the Flames of this sort of run that I'm doing is the 5th of January, which is a Sunday, against the Cardiff Devils, and then I'm back to the NIHL on the regular, unless I get another phone call and there's some more games for me to do, in which case I will always listen, because commentating is fun. Though I will hopefully be popping up with some NIHL commentaries before the end of the season as well. Should be a lot of fun. Just keeping my eye in. I think I've done all right so far. Guildford seems to be happy, which is good. Had a few messages from people that I don't know saying that they're enjoying what I do. Cool. Just going to keep pressing on, keep making BOTW as good a thing as it can, keep making my commentary better, and just try to sort of do my own thing and not fret too much. But ultimately, also as well, kind of want to get back out and around. I feel like I've been kind of in my own box doing my own thing for a little while. So very, very happy for, I'm not just sort of hiding. I want to go out and sort of do other bits and pieces. Obviously, I popped up on AVFTB earlier in the season, so if people want a gobby southerner, then give me a shout. Or give Joe a shout. He's pretty gobby as well. Should be fun. He's probably better, but he's much more considered than I am, I think. Right, dearie me, my throat is absolutely doing. Pondering the lemsip after the better part of an hour and a half chatting away. Oh, dearie me. But yes, so Saturday, Gosport, Solent Devils versus Streatham. I will be there. If you're there, do come say hello. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it, and always a good game. Always a good game between these two sides. Always quite feisty. Always quite physical. Really interested to see how the sort of new look elements of both these sides do against each other. Should be good. Right, we're going to call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL, and follow me on my bizarre hockey journey wherever it may take me, whether it's up a ladder into a commentary booth or around the world. Check out our Banners on the Road series, an in-depth look at every game. As I do these little bits of commentary as well, check out the mini-series of that. That's In the Box Thinking, where you get some insight into commentary and my views on the game that I've just seen. Of course, there's our Hockey Stories series on there too, which is our long-form, in-depth pieces of content from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond. Some of them are written, some of them are audio-visual, but either way, you get a really in-depth look at a really fun topic. Of course, our last one, When the Music Stops, a in-depth look at what it's like to retire from British hockey. The old BOTW podcast back catalogue is there, as well as our free-to-download ice hockey game, Dice Hockey, that you can play with bits and pieces around your house. And I will say, because what do I always say when it comes to Dice Hockey? If you download it and you enjoy it, please chuck some money towards Parkinson's UK, because my dad has Parkinson's and it sucks, right? Got another little fundraising thing for Parkinson's coming. Is the plan. Working on the final details. But you'll like this one. Particularly if you like your hockey at the business end of the season. Keep tabs. Either way, plenty of stuff. Nearly 14 years worth of content for you to check out over at the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall. If you like all your news and bits and pieces through your Facebook feed, make sure to go over, hit the like button, because then you'll get every link for every piece, as well as the links to all the streams when Facebook decides to work again. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Meta. As ever, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, is @BannersOTW. Best place to keep up with me and my rolling commentary of British and world ice hockey, as well as all the links to everything that happens. Blue Sky, bannersonthewall.bsky.social, I think is how it's done. But if you search Banners on the Wall, I do pop up quite quickly on there, so hopefully you can find me over there. And of course, there's our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Nothing's behind the paywall, but it just costs to exist, as that is the nature of the world. And ultimately, if you enjoy what you get from Banners on the Wall, whether you like what we read, what we produce, if you like all those bits and pieces, do please head over, chuck a couple of quid in our virtual busking hat at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. And ultimately, if you don't have money and you can't afford it, please don't chuck me money that you can't afford. If you aren't in a position to put money in, retweet, share something out. It's all massively appreciated. But the great thing, of course, is we're live on YouTube, and all of those links are down there below in the description, as well as the link to 3D Lee, where you can get yourself a lovely 3D printed sign if you so wish. But that's the joy of YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share bits and pieces out. It's always appreciated. You've got a massive amount of stuff on there. Interviews with the movers and shakers of British hockey. DOPS. Want to hear from the people who run DOPS in the NIHL? We've got an interview with DOPS. Want to get an insight from Steve now? Haven't, and we've done that. What about Aaron now? We've got that too. Owners from around British hockey. Some of the movers and shakers. Want to hear from officials? We've got an interview with an official if you dig in hard enough. Game reviews, all kinds of fun bits and pieces. I interviewed Steve Dangle once. Go check that out. That's always fun. But plenty of stuff there on the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. And then, of course, back here for the centrepiece, Wednesday nights, 8 PM, the first and best live show that covers all 5 divisions of the NIHL, as well as dipping our toe into the Elite League and the WNIHL now as well. The BOTW What's Current Stream, Wednesday nights at 8. Come join us. That's half the fun. There we are, done for another week. Going to be different experience this weekend, having done like a month of commentary. Quite tired, I won't lie, because it's a lot of work, but it's fun work. The pressure is the privilege, right? But it is nice to have a week off and not do something and be able to watch hockey in a different way and watch some different hockey too. I hope wherever you are, you can enjoy your hockey where you find it too. Be happy. And if you can't be happier than wherever you are, please do everything you can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Watts would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. Enjoy your hockey where you find it. If you're in Gosport this weekend, do come say hello.